What up, guys? This is Derek Larger, and I'm here with my man Chase. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good.
It's good. Before we start this video out, I want to give a shout out to the Sydney Yellow Jackets at Sydney High School, my hometown, for winning their first tournament game for the state tournament yesterday. And congratulations on that, guys, and I hope you continue to keep going. You guys are definitely helping Sydney out, and you're making us all very proud. So today's video is going to be all about baseball, and that's why I have this guy here, because he knows his baseball. And be sure to leave a comment, like, or give any suggestions on if I should bring him back or not and what he should talk about. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the MLB has installed some new rule changes. One being the extra inning rule change, where a player is to be on second base to start out the inning. And the other one is the intentional walk, where the dugout can just give a signal, and that just tells them to just send the runner straight to first. So I want to get your take on it. Do you think this is good for the MLB, or do you think it's going to hurt them?
I think in some aspects, certain rules are good for the MLB. If you're looking at the extra innings rule, I don't think that one per se should quite work out, because baseball, in a sense, is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to enjoy the game, and you're supposed to love it. And when people go to the ballpark, they're there to see the intensity of it, and it's like to have their team go into the extra innings. And putting the runner on second base just gives them a free shot of like winning the game right away. I mean, one base hit, and you're already pretty much winning the game.
But see, that's also been another thing where people are like, you know, the MLB's trying to speed the game up because kids nowadays don't like to watch a 3.5-hour game. What would you say, even though it's appealing to the needs of kids, why do you still think that that's not a good rule?
Well, I mean, I get that they're trying to appeal to the kids' perspective, but anybody that truly loves baseball, or anybody that loves to watch sports in general, has to realize that they are there to like interact with the players, interact with the surroundings of how it's going. People don't want to sit there and watch like that because they feel like it'll take the essence of how baseball is supposed to be out of it. If you're watching it on TV, yeah, sure. If you're going to implement this rule, I'd say implement it to where like you have a runner on first base instead of on second, because if you put them on second, a base hit anywhere will score them easily, and you could win the game right there with a walk-off. If you put them on first, you have a better shot of containing them to third base or to second, rather than having them just get one hit and winning the game right away. It makes it more challenging for them if they're at first.
I agree with that. And what about the intentional walk rule, just the of them giving a signal? Because just recently, earlier this week, there was a couple of college baseball teams down in Florida that were playing. It was at the bottom of the 10th inning. Home team as a player on third were intentionally walking the batter, but 2 times the pitcher screwed up the pitch. It went behind the catcher, and they won the game. A lot of people are thinking, oh, you're going to take that kind of, intensity out of it. That's kind of surprise element. What do you think?
See, I kind of like that rule. That's one of the ones that I like, because if you look at it this way, granted, yes, you may have a chance where the pitcher screws up, but that's highly unlikely in the MLB.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you barely ever see that anymore. So, in a sense, you want to have it to where, like, you can just send them to first base right away. Because if you look at it at the point where, yeah, you're going to throw the pitches down the middle of the plate and you could screw up and get a hit, but it saves your pitcher's arm and it does not get the pitch count raised up, and it also helps prevent the batter from not being drilled, rather than just putting them on. If you go out there and you just say, hey, put them on first base, and we'll go from there, that's 4 extra pitches that your pitcher has, and that's also a chance for your batter to like not get hit and severely injured if it's a slip-up for that case.
Exactly.
So I think that rule would help the MLB in that case.
So you think that, well, obviously the intentional walk rule is going to be implemented permanently, but the extra inning rule, that's just a temporary one for this year just to see how it goes. But I think you're in agreement. It's a good rule only if they put him on first base rather than second base, and you like the intentional walk rule.
I mean, if they did it like that, I would kind of go more towards that. I would like it, but in general, I think that they're taking the fun aspect out of how baseball is supposed to be played.
Out of the extra inning play.
Because, like, yeah, they had teams this past year that went 19 innings. I mean, that's
it's not like in football, when you go into overtime, they don't put the ball automatically on the 50-yard line and make it so easy to the point where, you can almost guarantee a score.
Right. And
that's the kind of thing.
And that's what makes baseball so fun and so unpredictable because, like, anything can happen at any given point in time. You could have a player screw up a play or, like, do a missed throw or anything like that, and that could win the game. I see what they're trying to do because they're trying to save the bullpen pitchers and trying to save their arms so they aren't pitching like 2 innings, 3 innings, 4 innings like that, and you don't have to have a position player come in and pitch. But that's kind of the exciting part about baseball and the exciting part about the game itself. I would like the extra innings rule if they did put the runner on first, but I think that they should scrap that in general, and that should be up to the players to decide if they want that done.
All right, so now we're going to go on to our next one, which I'm going to ask him. I asked him earlier, who does he think is going to be the surprise guy, the surprise team for their division, the playoffs, the World Series, whatever he thinks is going to happen. I'm going to ask him who he thinks is going to be that surprise team. So he's going to give you one from the AL and from the NL. Who's your AL surprise team?
I actually have 2 from the AL. The 2 from the AL would have to be the New York Yankees, only because that they have been involved in a lot of trades during the offseason to get pitchers and to get a lot of position players. And the pitching aspect that they got Ronald Chapman back, who is by far one of the best closers in baseball. Mm-hmm. Arguably, like you can
the best.
You can argue hands down about that all night. And they've also got a lot of young talent. They got 2 good outfield prospects. One with Clint Frazier, who was in the top 20 or 30 for MLB prospects from the Indians, or from the Indians organization. They got him, and he's going to be one of the next rising stars here in the next couple of years, maybe this year. And then they've also got Gary Sanchez, who was a good catcher and started leading their team to like more and more hits. They got rid of Andrew Miller in the bullpen, so that kind of solidified it as like a weak bullpen. But if you can get CC coming back like out of his rehab healthy enough to pitch, you get to knock it in there. I feel like their rotation is going to be pretty good, and they got enough young talent that can lead them to the playoffs, if not a wild card spot. The second team I have out of their division would have to be the Seattle Mariners. Okay. Granted, you've got the Texas Rangers, who are a by far like high talented team to win that division this year with Yu Darvish and Cole Hamels as their starters. You got Adrian Beltre. They just picked up Mike Napoli. But as you can see, if you looked at or followed the Indians closely last year, he started slipping towards the end of the season with his production. By August, like he wasn't putting up the home runs, wasn't getting the RBI, started striking out a lot. So that's one thing you got to look at. They got Jonathan Lucroy, so that's going to solidify the team as a good one. But with the Seattle Mariners, they just got another young guy as their starting pitcher. They got another guy in the minors who is working his way up, and he might be a potential top guy and might fight Felix Hernandez for that top spot or as their second guy going behind him. And I'm not sure what his name is, but he's going to be one of the rising stars in there. Not to mention you got Robinson Cano, who's been putting up good numbers, and a lot of the young players in that talent. I mean,
see, this is why I have him here, folks, because he knows these things. Like, he knows so much more than what I do, and obviously he's my go-to guy when it comes to baseball. Now, what about your NL surprise team?
The National League, this is kind of hard, because if you look at all the talent that you've got in the National League, it is by far one of the toughest leagues out there. I mean, you've got teams like the Pirates that are good, or have been good, been a wild card team in the past 4 or 5 years. You've got the Cardinals who have been in the playoffs the past few years.
I got one quick question. Do you think the Cubs are going back to the World Series in the NL? Just this year? This year. You think they're going back?
They could have a possible shot, yes. I'm not saying 100% yes, but we'll get to that later and explain why.
Okay.
But the teams that I'm going to have to pick that are either going to have a shot of probably not winning their division, but have a chance of making themselves known across the league. And the one has to be the Atlanta Braves. And I'm saying the Atlanta Braves only because they just acquired a lot of pitching talent during the offseason. Bartolo Colon is, yes, reaching 44 years old, but he's still one of the most dominant pitchers that I've seen in his age group and has still been doing good. He was with that World Series Mets team and led them to a good season that year when he was there. You've got R.A. Dickey, who was a knuckleballer. Granted, nobody picks up on the knuckleball anymore, and they think it's easy to hit.
Right.
Mind you that he did good with Toronto, and he's been an amazing guy in the past few years in the playoffs, too, and he's one of the most reliable ones. You've also got a guy like Matt Whistler, who's a guy from my hometown and did good with the Braves last year as one of their young guys, and he's only 25, 26 years old, so he's still got a long while yet. Not to mention, their catching-wise, this Nick Flowers that they got, I mean, I don't think that he's that good, but I'd put Kirk Suzuki in back there. He did good with the Twins as a catcher defensively. Offensively, he could use a little work. Now, they've also got Matt Kemp as one of their solid outfield prospects, and they got Freddie Freeman, who's been a rising star for the Braves organization for a long time, and he's probably one of their faces of the franchise. You've also got to look at Brandon Phillips, who they just acquired from the Reds. Granted, he's older. He's 36 years old, doesn't have much time left, but you're looking at a solid defensive player and a solid guy who can hit the ball for sure. So you would have to put them at least in the top of thinking that they might have a shot of their either division or have a shot of like making a name for themselves, getting more wins. And the second team I'd have to pick for the National League. Now this is a tough one. It's either between the Miami Marlins or the New York Mets, and I would have to choose the Miami Marlins in this aspect because of if you look at the Miami Marlins, they just lost Jose Fernandez, so they're going to be playing for something big this next year. They've also got Don Mattingly, who's been a phenomenal manager for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And if you look at Miami Marlins, they had a shot of making the wild card there for a little bit, and then they choked it away towards the end. You just got to finish strong. They've got a lot of good talent in the minor leagues. They just got to solidify that bullpen.
Well, with Carlos Stanton going down, obviously you lost one of the premier hitters, sluggers in the MLB. Do you think that was the main reason why they didn't make the wild card race a little more interesting?
I think that has a factor to play into it, but in baseball, you've got to mainly look at who your production is around. If you look at players all around the league, they've either got veterans to look at to help them if they're in their slumps or they're struggling, or you look at who's producing and you want to go based off of what's happening there. I mean, if you're going to have obviously your best guy on the team, Giancarlo Stanton, who is by far one of the MLB's best hitters when he's fully healthy, and a lot of the injuries aren't his fault. I mean, they're just fluke accidents that happen. Right. And a guy who's getting paid that much, yes, I do believe that has a factor played into it, but it also relies on your coaching staff too. If your hitting coach is not going to be a good one and not going to help you through it, I'd say it also relies on the coaches. And with their pitching staff and their pitching coach, I think that they have a shot of it. They've got some guys young guys coming up that could possibly do good.
All right, so apparently, you heard it here first from him. He thinks the Yankees and the Mariners have a legit shot of making contention for a playoff spot, and then we heard the Marlins, and we also heard about the Atlanta Braves making some moves. So this is where I come in, and I give you guys a brief thing about the Reds and what I see from them coming through this season. So this is the Reds team that has, over the last 3 years since Price has taken over as the manager of the team, the win-loss column has not been great. The last 2 years, losing 100-plus games, which is obviously not good for the Reds. You also think about how their bullpen pitching was one of the worst bullpen pitchings that the MLB has ever seen, which is something to say considering the fact that the MLB has seen hundreds, maybe even close to thousands of bullpen pitchings, and that's how bad it was. But I do see them trying to make some moves as to solidify the infield and trying to deliver on some bullpen pitchings. Obviously, with the leaving of Brandon Phillips, Jose Peraza is going to fill that spot, who many people believe is a very good prospect. He shows some promise in the offensive side of the on the offensive side of the game. I think that it's going to be a while before the Reds are going to need to solidify their pitching. They need to get a couple guys that they can actually depend on in the bullpen, which is something that I don't think there was one guy on the bullpen for the Reds that I could honestly trust in my heart would get the job done most of the time. And there was not many starters that actually would probably do that. Homer Bailey's going to start the season out on the DL. When he actually gets back healthy, that's going to be good to help them out. Brian Finnegan had some times when he was really good, especially to start the season. But other than that, the Reds really need to get that one more marquee pitcher to start that's going to solidify their five, and then bullpen pitching as well. I think the offense is looking up and up, especially with some guys last year that surprised us like Schebler and Tucker Barnhart. But obviously the defensive side, especially the pitching, is the one thing that the Reds are going to have to look to make better. And the one thing that I've always said is I don't know why they got rid of Dusty Baker. I mean, if someone wants to explain to me, other than this guy, why they actually got rid of him just because he couldn't finish on the top stage, is beyond me. If someone wants to comment and give me a reason as to why, please do. I would love to hear your opinion on that. Now, we're going to go to the final thing today, which is his World Series pick. And I don't know if you could tell by the shirt, this is the team that this guy is thinking about that's going to make it, and I'm going to let him explain why.
And I'm not going to try to go into depth about this, but I will give my explanations on why. The Indians have the highest shot of going to the World Series and winning it, only because of the offseason pick that they acquired with Edwin Encarnacion. That was a given. But not to mention all their young talent that they've got in the minors. They've got a solid, probably, if you want to argue, they've got one of the best rotations in all of the MLB, hands down. They had a shot of winning it last year, and everybody says that the Cubs are the better team in the MLB. They had everybody fully healthy, ready to go for the playoffs last year, and the Indians had two pitchers that were not fully healthy. Salazar coming out of the bullpen but not being able to start a game was huge for them. Mm-hmm. And he did pitch 2 innings of shutout baseball when he came in out of the bullpen.
And I think most people from Cleveland are probably agreeing with the things you're saying. You're like, if they were completely healthy, especially on the pitching side of it all, that they would have won. And you have to think, with having that same pitching staff, plus the addition of a slugger like Edwin Encarnacion, that would definitely solidify their chances.
Yeah, and not to mention they were missing one of their best offensive weapons in Michael Brantley last year, who was by far a big blow to their offense, but he was not there, and everybody stepped up and played well. And I got to give credit to also the manager that is in charge with Terry Francona. He knows how to manage a ball club just like Joe Madden does. We'll get into that in a second. But by far, one of the best attributes that helped the Indians along the way is the acquiring of Andrew Miller to solidify that bullpen and make them tougher. Because with the way Andrew Miller his pitches, granted he only has 2 pitches to work with, a fastball and a slider, but he makes it work and he gets the batters out. That is awesome. They also picked up Bowen Logan, who was a closer for Colorado and had a 1.59 ERA. And anybody that knows baseball knows that's a great ERA to have. He was a closer. He might fill in as a relief role. He might fill in as their closer over Cody Allen. They had one of the best bullpens in the American League last year, if not all of baseball, when they acquired Andrew Miller last year. But just having him there for the next 2 seasons and having Bowen Logan come in, that just solidified their bullpen even more. And their depth that they've got now, coming from Ryan Merritt and Mike Clevinger and Sean Morimondo in the minor leagues for their starting pitchers, that just gives them a cushion if one of them goes down.
All right, so we do know what he thinks about the Cleveland Indians. He thinks they're going right back. Now, just give me the team in the NL you think you have your best guess on who's going to make it to the World Series? Is it the Cubs or is it someone else? Just who do you think?
I can't say the Cubs 100% right now.
But are they your favorite to get back?
They are the favorite, but I'd have to go with the New York Mets. If they have their full pitching staff healthy, like they did in 2015 when they played the Royals, I believe that they have the best shot of beating the Cubs, because anybody knows that defense wins football or wins games or wins championships in football, but pitching wins championships in baseball, and they have probably the best pitching staff in the National League.
All right, so we heard it here first. Indians, Mets. He's thinking that's what's going to come down to. So thank you guys for watching this one. This has been a baseball edition of Derek Larger Sports Talk today. Be sure to leave comments about future things to talk about with this guy. Leave a like and be sure to subscribe. And until next time, guys, peace.